Hi everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel AskPrep. In today's video we are going to understand about ruling the countryside in detail. Let's get started. Introduction. In the year 1765, Mughal Emperor Shah Alam granted to the company the Diwani of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. The company agreed to pay annually 26 lakh rupees to the Mughal emperor and got right to keep the all surplus amount of collected revenue. Diwan or Diwani gave right to collect the revenue and decide civil and revenue cases. Diwan sends the collected revenue to the central authority or treasury. Regarding Bengal, we can see that Nawab of Bengal was the puppet of East India Company and then East India Company became the Diwan of the Bengal. The Blue Rebellion 1859. In March 1859, farmers started a Blue Rebellion in West Bengal. They all refused to grow indigo, which was in great demand in European nations due to its high quality. They refused to be exploited and bullied by the British planters. The company becomes the Diwan. On 12 August 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the East India Company as the Diwan of Bengal, making it the main financial administrator of the region. The company now had to manage land and revenue effectively to cover its growing expenses and ensure a steady trade flow. As a foreign power, it needed to control former local rulers who held authority but couldn't remove them entirely due to their influence and prestige in the countryside. Revenue for the company. Although the company had become Diwan, it still focused on trade, aiming to maximize revenue to buy cotton and silk cheaply. Within 5 years, the value of goods bought in Bengal doubled, with revenue funding these exports. However, British policies caused a severe economic crisis in Bengal. Artisans abandoned villages due to forced low-price sales, and peasants struggled with heavy dues. In 1770, a devastating famine wiped out about one-third of Bengal's population, killing 10 million people. The need to improve agriculture. Company officials believed that investing in land and improving agriculture was essential, leading to the introduction of the permanent settlement in 1793. This policy recognized Rajas and Talukdars as zamindars, who were responsible for collecting rent from peasants and paying a fixed revenue to the company. Since the revenue amount was permanently set, zamindars would benefit from any increase in land productivity, motivating them to encourage better cultivation. How trade led to battles. During the early 18th century, tensions between the company and the Nawabs of Bengal escalated. The Nawabs denied the company trade concessions, demanded large tributes, restricted its right to mint coins, and prevented it from extending fortifications. Accusing the company of deceit, the Nawabs argued it was depriving Bengal of significant revenue and undermining their authority. Meanwhile, the company argued that the Nawab's demands were harming its trade and insisted it needed to expand settlements, acquire villages, and reinforce its forts. These conflicts led to confrontations that ultimately culminated in the famous Battle of Plassey. The problems. The permanent settlement created challenges for both the company and zamindars, as well as hardships for tenants. Zamindars were not investing in land improvements since the fixed revenue was too high to allow them profit. If they failed to pay, they risked losing their zamindari. Over time, as crop prices rose and cultivation expanded, zamindars earned more, but the company's revenue didn't increase due to the fixed rate. Zamindars preferred to lease land to tenants for rent rather than invest in improvements. For cultivators, the system was harsh. High rents and insecure land rights forced many to take loans from moneylenders, and failure to pay rent led to land loss. A new system is devised. By the early 1800s, company officials sought a new revenue system. Holt Mackenzie introduced the Mahalwari settlement in 1822 in the northwestern provinces of Bengal. Under this system, collectors visited villages, measured fields, and recorded customs and rights. The revenue for each village, or mahal, was calculated by adding up estimated revenues of each plot, with periodic revisions instead of a fixed amount. Collection was entrusted to the village headman rather than the zamindar. The Munro system, in the British territories in southern India, a new revenue system called the Ryotwari, or Ryotwari, system was introduced, first tested by Captain Alexander Reid and later developed by Thomas Munro. Unlike in Bengal, there were no traditional zamindars in the south, so the settlement was made directly with the cultivators, or ryots, who had been farming the land for generations. Munro envisioned the British acting as paternal figures, providing protection and support to the ryots. All was not well. Within a few years after the new systems were imposed, it was clear that all was not well with them. Revenue officials fixed too high a revenue demand. Peasants were unable to pay, riots fled the countryside. Villages became deserted in many regions. Crops for Europe. The British also realized that the countryside could not only yield revenue, it could also grow the crops that Europe required. By the late 18th century, the company persuaded or forced cultivators in various parts of India to produce other crops: jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in the United Provinces, now Uttar Pradesh, wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra and Punjab, rice in Madras. The British used a variety of methods to expand the cultivation of crops that they needed. Does color have a history? Kalamkari print was created by weavers of Andhra Pradesh in India. A floral cotton print was designed and produced by artists of 19th century Britain. There was one common thing in the two prints, both used a rich blue color, commonly called indigo. It is likely that the blue dye used in the floral cotton print in 19th century Britain was manufactured from indigo plants cultivated in India. For India was the biggest supplier of indigo in the world at that time. What was the demand for Indian indigo? By the 13th century, Indian indigo was used by cloth manufacturers in Europe for dyeing. However, due to its limited availability, indigo was costly, and European manufacturers relied on the woad plant for violet and blue dyes. Indigo produced a richer blue than woad, leading cloth dyers to prefer it despite its scarcity. Woad producers, worried about competition, pressured European governments to ban indigo imports. By the 17th century, however, cloth producers managed to lift the ban, and European countries began cultivating indigo in the Caribbean, Brazil, Jamaica, Venezuela, and North America. By the late 18th century, as Britain's industrialization increased cotton production, demand for indigo surged. With the collapse of other supply sources, British cloth dyers desperately sought new supplies of indigo. Britain turns to India. With rising demand for indigo in Europe, the East India Company sought to expand indigo cultivation in Bengal. From the late 18th century, Bengal indigo production grew rapidly, dominating the global market by 1810, when Britain's indigo imports from Bengal rose from 30% to 95%. Attracted by potential profits, many Scotsmen and Englishmen became planters in India. Those lacking funds could obtain loans from the company and emerging banks to support their ventures in indigo production. How was indigo cultivated? There were two main systems of indigo cultivation: Nij and Ryoti. Within the system of Nij cultivation, the planter produced indigo in lands that he directly controlled and produced indigo by directly employing hired laborers. The problem with Nij cultivation, expanding indigo cultivation through Nij, direct cultivation, proved challenging for planters. Indigo required fertile land, which was densely populated, making it hard to acquire large, compact areas without displacing peasants, often causing conflicts. Additionally, indigo needed extensive labor. At the same time, peasants were occupied with rice farming, creating a labor shortage. Niche cultivation also demanded many plows and bullocks, which were difficult to source as peasants used their own for rice fields. As a result, by the late 19th century, planters hesitated to increase niche cultivation, and less than 25% of indigo land used this method. The majority relied on the Ryotwari system instead. The Blue Rebellion and after, in March 1859, thousands of ryots in Bengal refused to grow indigo, ryots refused to pay rents to planters, and attacked indigo factories. Those who worked for the planters were socially boycotted, and the Gomasthas, agents of planters, who came to collect rent, were beaten up. Ryots swore they would no longer take advances to sow indigo nor be bullied by the planters' lathials, the lathi-wielding strongmen maintained by the planters. Causes of the Blue Rebellion. In 1859, indigo farmers, ryots, believed they had support from local zamindars and village headmen, who were upset by the growing power of the planters and forced land leases. The ryots also expected backing from the British government. When news of unrest reached officials, the lieutenant governor toured the indigo areas, which the ryots saw as government sympathy. Magistrate Ashley Eddins noticed that ryots weren't obliged to sign indigo contracts was interpreted as Queen Victoria's support for their cause. The rebellion gained momentum, attracting Calcutta intellectuals who documented the riots' suffering and the oppressive indigo system. Outcome of the Blue Rebellion. In response to the Indigo Rebellion, the British government deployed the military to protect planters and established the Indigo Commission to investigate. The commission found the planters guilty, stating that indigo cultivation was unprofitable for ryots. It advised ryots to honor existing contracts but allowed them to refuse future indigo production. Following the revolt, indigo farming in Bengal collapsed, and planters moved to Bihar. Although synthetic dyes impacted the industry in the late 19th century, production continued to expand. Mahatma Gandhi's 1917 visit sparked the Champaran movement, rallying against indigo planters. The effect on the British rulers in India. Historians view the Indigo Revolt as a non-violent revolution, marking it as a precursor to Gandhi's later passive resistance strategies. Its success lay in its impact on the government, leading to the immediate formation of the Indigo Commission in 1860. The Commission's report captured the depth of the peasants' suffering. E.W.L. Tower famously noted that not a chest of indigo reached England without being stained with human blood. This statement highlighted the profound effect the revolt had on European sentiments, showcasing the significant triumph of the peasants in drawing attention to their plight. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoy learning about ruling the countryside. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more exciting social science videos. See you next time.